First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold. You are tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot. We call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, your community broadcaster. Be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4ZZZ.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to us or any 4ZZZ show using the ingenious on-demand feature also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum prefers. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K, your weekly dose of science. And joining me for this episode to speak about all things science are two of my favourite science communicators. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning, Gabrielle.
Hello, hello, hello. Max,
yes.
The Ig Nobels, we're getting back into them this week.
Sounds good.
It's going to be, I don't want to spoil it, but...
Yeah, well, I haven't looked. I've held my promise.
I've gotten into the Ig Nobel Prize for Aviation.
Oh.
Which is a study from 2009, which has won the award.
Really, just got it?
Yeah. And these awards take time. They often wait.
Wait to see if it has an impact.
Well,
did a plane fly?
That's kind of how the Nobel
Award?
Prize works. They sort of wait to see the impact it has on the world a lot of the time. So people will be awarded an Ig Nobel Prize for maybe like several papers they've done over decades.
Yes.
And then in the Ig Nobels, the Cacio Pepe pasta sauce we did, that was January it was published. But this one was published in 2009.
Right, okay.
So we'll get into that.
That's cool, because on this day, back in 1969, Concorde 001 went supersonic for the first time.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, that's not going to win you an Ig Nobel Prize, but it's still all right.
Okay.
But before we get into any of that stuff, Max, Peter has to...
Apology.
Yeah.
I made a mistake, and it's something I regret deeply.
This hurts.
You all know that I love this show. I love rigorous science, and I aim to always tell you our best version of the truth, the closest that we know. Because as we know, science doesn't get the truth. Science just gets as close as we can. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you about the deepest cow. And at some point I said that this was the deepest cow on record. Do you have any... Does anyone else remember this?
No. 1.6 kilometres deep. Do you remember the cows they dropped into the ocean and all the sharks started coming
feeding on them, yeah.
And I think we said it was the deepest cow ever on record.
We said it was the deepest cow on record. We didn't say it was the deepest cow. I actually had done some research at the time on what I thought would be the deepest cow, which was a horrific accident where a bunch of cows perished over the Marianas Trench, which I stand by might still be the deepest cow, but alas, I was wrong. That was not the deepest cow on record, and I'm so sorry for everyone who listens to this show and cares about what we said.
Wasn't even close.
Takes it to heart. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close. And it was available. It was on record.
How deep is it?
3.4 kilometres. It's 3,400 metres.
Deep.
I was really wrong, and I'm so sorry for that, everyone. I let you down, and I want you to know that I take that really seriously. We will be conducting a formal investigation into how this happened and making sure that it does not happen again.
Clearly we didn't peer review your article. Okay, during Weird Science. What do you got for us, Peter?
Does anyone here have any of those super techie clothes? Like, you know, those jackets that are super reflective and stuff? You seen that stuff?
Super techie. What?
I feel like there's lots of super techie clothes on the moment at the market. I saw one that was like an invisibility cloak, but that's very much like military. So I don't expect anyone has that. Did you not see that a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Anyway, no, don't care about that.
They could hide a tank with it, apparently.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff they do. But next question, what do you look for in a wetsuit?
Oh, yeah, here we go. They tested 3 types, didn't they?
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You never let me have anything.
Well,
people haven't all read this. Just go with the flow. Never mind. All right, how much would you pay for a shark bite proof wetsuit?
$1,000.
A shark bite proof wetsuit. Max is putting himself at $1,000.
Yeah.
$1,000, yeah, probably. Actually, to be fair, wetsuits kind of just cost that much.
Yeah.
Generally, regular neoprene's pretty expensive. So anyway, the thing that actually interested me in this is that this whole business, the shark bite proof clothing, actually started in the 1970s. Now, does anyone else remember what happened in the 1970s?
Yeah, Jaws hit the...
Jaws,
yeah.
So I thought it was kind of interesting that we started trying to prevent shark bites right after that big movie came out. Anyway, in the 1970s, people started developing literal chainmail suits to be worn in the ocean. Had a pretty obvious problem.
Pretty heavy. Yeah.
Pretty heavy. Yeah. Pretty heavy, not great for being in the ocean. Apparently there were
Probably solves the shark issue, though.
It was pretty good against the sharks. It was. Although, apparently, I saw something that said that they did, quote, in situ tests.
Right.
Who volunteered? Like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're also hard to maneuver in. That's a big deal in the ocean and with wetsuits. People who buy these wetsuits are usually surfers, swimmers, blah, blah, blah. You kind of need to be able to move your arms and things like that to be able to. So that's a big deal.
So you don't drown.
So that, these chainmail things didn't really, also just so you can do the thing you came there to do, surf or whatever. So they didn't really go anywhere, these chainmail suits. They weren't super popular. They're still available. There's a company that's been making them since the 1970s, but they're not popular. But recently, new technology has arisen with new bite-resistant wetsuit materials. So there are 4 major ones that this study looked into: Aqua Armor, Action TXS, Brewster, and Sharkstop. Only 4 of the 4, only 2 of those, in my opinion, have good names. And they're not all the same. Aqua Armor is pretty basic, in my opinion, out of all of them. It literally kind of just uses the same chainmail idea. It's a bit new. It's like new chainmail tech, but it only has it in certain patches, like where they usually bite, so thighs, around the arms, things like that.
Yeah.
Brewster, I think, has a really cool idea, which is that they mix Kevlar with polyurethane. So there's Kevlar mixed into the entire fabric of the suit. And we know Kevlar is from those bulletproof vests and stuff. You'll have seen it in TV. And then Sharkstop and Action TXS have, quote, ultra high molecular weight polyethylene nanofibers. So that's cool. Anything that's high molecular weight is usually hard to break through because it's got a lot of stuff in the molecules. So all of them sound really interesting. Each of these brands have done their own testing, but apparently none of them had actually tested their actual efficacy against real, large, predatory sharks. Until now. Researchers from Flinders University, QS ranking please.
We should
always
know this.
forget Flinders. I think it's about 350.
I'm saying
Yeah.
183.
It's 336. Good job,
go.
Gabe. 336. So these researchers wanted to test the efficacy of these 4 materials against 2 heavy hitters, the tiger shark and the white shark. Now, these are usually responsible for most of what they call unprovoked bites. I mean, interesting way of saying it, but yeah, generally they're a bit more nibbly than other sharks.
Okay.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I do think it's really pertinent to emphasize just how rare shark bites are. They are very, very, very rare. More people die from coconuts every year than sharks. In saying that, there is obviously a very real fear around sharks, and deaths from shark bites can be gory and very serious. And there's no reason not to make people safer.
You get a coconut-proof wetsuit.
No, because usually the way people die from coconuts is them falling from
Helmets.
trees. So
helmets, yeah.
no, the trees don't tend to be in the water. So yeah, helmets would be the thing, but it's not relevant to wetsuits, I'd say. Okay. Just wear a helmet. And don't stand under coconut trees would be my big thing there. But yeah, so I think even though this is a problem that's very small and unlikely to happen to anyone anyway, it's still nice to be able to try and make people feel safer in the ocean and actually be safer in the rare occurrences that something is going to happen. So they got these 4 materials, and then they took the wetsuit samples out on a boat and they went to go find some real sharks. They went looking for tiger sharks in Norfolk Island, so quite far away, and white sharks just off of South Australia. And one thing I haven't seen mentioned in any coverage of this yet is that they actually did their white shark trials. They went out to Ron and Valerie Taylor Marine Parks to find them. Okay. If you guys don't know those names, Ron and Valerie Taylor are iconic Australian filmmakers and conservationists. They were actually the first people to ever film great white sharks outside of a cage. And they helped film lots of different things with sharks, including Jaws. They were part of the production. So I think it's very fitting that they went to this area to Ron and Valerie Taylor's full circle moment for the sharks to go test this bite-proof material. Really sweet. So they're out on this boat, and essentially they attack the sharks using some tethered baits. Listed all the baits, it's just some big fish. And then once the sharks attempted to eat the bait, they yanked it out, which I think is kind of rude. At least let it eat and get a nibble. It's there and then the bait's gone. And then they would deploy the bite package, which was essentially a wooden board that then had some foam, and then they covered all of that in the wetsuit material. And it was like tethered to the boat. So it kind of just looks like a rectangle, like a foamy rectangle covered in wetsuit. And then once the shark had had a bite, they would recover the package and check the marks left by the shark. And they would classify the damage by severity categories. So there's 4 severity categories. Number 1 was C1, superficial. They have pictures of these. Really can't see much. It's basically just a little dents. Almost nothing. C2, slight. There are small dents in the foam. You can see the dents, but there's no cuts. And then C3 there was a visible puncture, tear, or cut. And then C4 was critical. Large tear with lots of foam missing. And the photo they used for this one...
The lower the C value, the better the material.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, so they had the C4 one, huge chunk of wetsuit missing. Not great. And then they sort of calculated the proportional surface area and damage and tried to see like what this would do. Now, the reason this is important and the reason they're testing it like this is because these wetsuits aren't necessarily designed to stop shark bites. They're designed to reduce the impact of them. So if you get a bite, reducing injury. Because one of the main ways people die from shark bites is through hemorrhaging, so blood loss. So if you can, like these, they do not claim to prevent injuries like crushing or internal injuries. But if you can at least stop someone from bleeding out, you give them a way better chance of survival. So that's what these wetsuits are trying to do, and that's what they're looking at with these sort of severity bite things. Is that's why the cut and the tear is such a big deal, because once the shark gets through the material, that's when we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So all tested materials reduced the proportion of damage in the substantial and critical categories compared to the control neoprene. Differences amongst the bite-resistant materials were limited to none. So they almost all performed identically, which was really cool. Very, very little differences in how the wetsuits performed. I will say I didn't see in the paper for, aqua armor. Like I said, that one only has patches of chainmail in it, and the rest is regular neoprene. So I didn't see in the paper whether they were only testing that chainmail bit, in which case, like, if the shark bit your calf, you're kind of screwed. But anyway, all the rest, they did perform very similarly. One weird, interesting thing that wasn't really related to the wetsuits was that tiger shark bites, increasing length of shark correlated with greater proportional damage, but they didn't see that with white sharks. So it didn't matter how big the white shark was, it kind of had the same damage. Not true of tiger sharks. But yeah, so what they found is that they meaningfully reduce severe puncture and laceration damage. So you get way less punctures and laceration from large predatory shark bites with these wetsuit materials, which, as we mentioned, is important because it gets rid of the blood loss issue, or not gets rid of, it reduces the blood loss issue. So it's a reduction in critical and substantial damage that could reduce hemorrhage, tissue loss, and fatal outcomes. Because no single material vastly outperformed the others in reducing severe damage, they think, you can choose any 4 of them, just see which one's more comfortable to you. They did say that all 4 wetsuits have a similar problem as the chainmail in that they reduce flexibility. So 2 of them, I believe, still had a 4-way stretch, which is the most important thing. 2 didn't, and then it's still like thicker and harder. So you kind of have to just see. And that's just a really cool thing that's happened. They think it's it's the first time we've actually tested these.
Yeah.
They did say for future work, they are interested in maybe doing field trials with real users.
Come on, Valerie.
Seems maybe
get that
unethical.
wetsuit on.
I don't know if they're going to get that through
Do we have a price or not?
No.
You know what I have found a price for, Max?
Yeah.
I've been busily looking for this as we go. I found the full chainmail. I locked on that. Peter
the
said
Neptune one.
that you can still buy a full chainmail wetsuit. Yeah, it's by Neptunic.
Does it come with floaties or?
I think it just comes as the wetsuit. Do you want to guess a price, Max?
10 grand.
Yeah, 11 and a half.
Yeah.
Whoa, really? Man.
Free shipping though.
Damn, that is crazy. Yeah, I can't see a price. Oh, here we go. Okay, so a chest zip wetsuit, which is a steamer from the Shark Stop, which is one of the materials I thought looked really good.
Yeah.
1,500.
Oh, that's all right.
So honestly,
Yeah.
not much worse than like a typical expensive wetsuit. Wetsuits get that expensive. Mine was like $500.
I'm
Ridiculous.
thinking this scenario: you go surfing with one of those really good shark-proof wetsuits, and you spend a good session, good 2-hour session out there. You come back in, and you lie down underneath a coconut, and it takes you out.
Yeah, that's the thing is, whenever you come back on shore, remember you're less safe. Wear a helmet.
First sonar, do you remember what it stood for from the top of the show, Max? And Izzy and Peter?
Sound.
Sorry.
Navigation and
ranging.
There you
Ranging.
go. Sound, navigation, and ranging.
Can we do scuba as well?
Self-contained underwater
Breathing apparatus. Yeah.
What?
There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Oh, I'm going to smash pub trivia now that I know that. Oh, my God.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Peter, we've got Gabe, and we've got part 2 of this. What do you got for us, Gabe?
Max, can you do yours?
Okay, mine's about the AI co-scientists. So I want to introduce 2 new studies that offer some intriguing insight in the use of large language models to generate novel scientific ideas. Scientific ideas that might otherwise have required many years of painstaking lab work. And this is not an endorsement for big tech, Peter. But both studies leveraged Alphabet's AI-powered scientific research assistant known as AI Co-Scientist. In the first study, a team led by Gary Peltz, a liver disease researcher at Stanford. QS ranking?
Stanford is, I think, 6?
8.
Or have they jumped to 3?
Yeah,
That's it. They were the big jump this year, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. He tasked the AI assistant with finding drugs already on the market that could be repurposed to treat liver fibrosis.
Oh.
Yes.
I feel like you were telling me about this
Max,
weekend.
I listened to a podcast this guy was on. This is
right.
fascinating
It
stuff.
is, isn't it? What? So Peltz prompted the tool to vibe the medicines that control how genes are switched on or off without altering underlying DNA. The AI, after mining the biomedical literature, came back with 3 suggestions. Peltz added 2 of his own suggestions and put all 5 drugs through a battery of tests on lab-grown liver tissue. Surprisingly, 2 of the AI suggestions and none of Peltz's reduced fibrosis and even showed signs of promoting liver regeneration.
Yeah.
Peltz, who published the findings on the 14th of September in the journal Advanced Science, hopes the results will pave the way for a clinical trial of one standout candidate, the cancer drug Veronostat, in patients with liver fibrosis. Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. Gabe, weren't you saying that in the podcast he said he did this because he cured himself by doing this? Like he got really obsessed
I'm assuming
with...
it's the same guy. I can't remember the name. But yeah,
Imagine it wasn't the same guy.
the idea is pretty incredible. Like as a theory of going, well, let's use the idea is let's use medicines to treat other existing medicines that we know are safe for human consumption to treat other stuff, because a lot of the time we might be trying to tackle the same symptoms or the same root cause or the same little process. The history of human medicine is littered with examples of stuff that gets
repurposed.
Made for one
Viagra
thing and then
being the main
repurposed. Yeah, Viagra, the famous
That's the
one.
famous example. They were like, oh, this is way more profitable.
Yeah.
Who cares about people with blood problems?
And so they go, well, surely this could work for other stuff as well, because developing medicines is an incredibly expensive, time-consuming and risky process.
And didn't you say there was something about the American system that made it more so that they weren't really looking at drugs for multiple uses?
Well, my understanding is you can only get a drug approved for your own. Like if you are a biomedical company developing a drug in the US, you can only get it approved for your own exclusive use, like for you can only is it trademark? I don't know what the term is.
Patent it. Yeah,
patent it. That's it. In for one use, and so there's not that you then have to go through a whole rigmarole, and it's not financially in the interest of the companies, the pharma companies, to go and try and get it approved for multiple uses. But doctors can still prescribe it or use it for different uses.
But why would they if they don't have the training or the knowledge?
And so the idea is, well, let's try and find those same symptoms and use different medications to treat them. And AI is just like the perfect playground for AI, right? To go pull out all of the different mechanisms that these medicines are using, and the mechanisms that are going on behind different illnesses and the symptoms behind different illnesses, come up with a list of the things that are most likely to be able to help in different situations than we usually use them in. Because like you said, Max, there's thousands of drugs out there that you can use in medicine to try and, as a human brain, to try and get through that information, it's impossible. But if you can use AI to use it, it's such a good example of how you can use it. It can pull up, things that it thinks are highly likely to work in a different situation, and then you test it like they've done in this case, and see what it does. And then you still have to go through the whole process of testing that out and doing trials and things, but it can just refine it down, boil it down into this little pile of things that are most likely to help in a situation that we might not be using them for.
Cool.
Because dinosaurs did not go extinct. We know that. Not dinosaurs. Many dinosaurs went extinct, but dinosaurs did not go extinct. We have them all around us. They're called birds.
Yeah.
I just like to really lay down the law there.
As a marine scientist.
As a marine scientist, I'm here to talk
We
to
got
you about
birds. That's it. The fish in the
And
air.
it may have not been a meteorite.
You're tuning to 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea. And I played that theme because we're going to hear from a friendly neighbourhood marine scientists. Peter and Gabe might interject as well. Let's do it.
Gabe may interject. So we're going to talk to you about weather. I love talking about weather. Everyone knows this about me. I talk about weather all the time, and I hate that it has such a bad rap. Every time I bring up the weather, people are like, oh, you're just attempting bad small talk. No, I'm not. I want to talk to you about clouds. I want to talk to you about clouds, what weather's coming. I want to talk to you about weather patterns. I want to talk about atmospheric pressure. Let's get into it. Weather is very interesting. I think more people need to be excited about the weather. Maybe not this weather, though. This weather's a little scary. So essentially, I'm here to tell you that it is way too hot in Antarctica right now. And just quickly, Max, if you had to guess, how hot is way too hot in
30
Antarctica?
degrees.
It's -20, actually. It's way too hot. But in its defense, it's essentially meant to be -80. But we're talking not just temperatures on Antarctica, we're talking about temperatures in Antarctica's stratosphere. So the stratosphere is 12 to 40 kilometres above the surface of the Earth. It's quite far up. And it's usually, around this time of year, meant to be -80 degrees Celsius. And it's now -20, which is about 35 degrees warmer than normal. So not fantastic. So, yeah, currently it's meant to be about -80, and then by the end of September...
meant to be -55 now.
Yes. So start of September it's meant to be -80, end of September it's meant to be -50. It slowly warms as the spring sunlight starts to return, blah, blah, blah. But since early September, the region has actually experienced 3 distinct pulses of heating. Each of them lifted the temperature by about 25 degrees or more. Can you imagine? Just imagine one day being 25 degrees warmer than the day before. That's crazy. I mean, this wasn't in a day. It takes about days, 2 weeks to get that high, but it is a significant change.
Yeah, the first lift was in the start of September.
Yeah.
And then it started cooling off. And we're talking like 30 kilometres up in the air. It started cooling off, and then another one happened. And then it started cooling off a little bit, and then a few days ago, a third one happened, and that's what it's gotten. That's why it's so weird that it's this high. It's 3 warming events in a row have just pushed this stratosphere, the atmosphere above Antarctica, up to 35 degrees warmer than it should be at this time, or
and they
usually
call it
is.
Sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW. That's what you'll see it's called, which is this rapid heating. I will say, when they say sudden, it doesn't mean boom, it's suddenly hot. They mean over a couple of days to weeks it gets warm. So there has been 3 pulses in September, though, which to me means pretty fast, a couple of days fast. And so what's causing this? Well, it might surprise some people to know that just like the ocean, the atmosphere has waves. And so what happened was atmospheric waves generated closer to the surface have spread upwards into the stratosphere, carrying their heat energy with them. And then as those waves collide with the polar vortex, they disturb the circulation and transfer the heat into the upper atmosphere. Now, what is the polar vortex? This is a super, super cool thing about Antarctica specifically. There is a polar vortex in the Arctic as well, but it's nowhere near as strong. And that's just because Antarctica is so physically isolated. It actually has something to do with the ocean as well. There's a thing called the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, which is this strong current that just circles Antarctica, and it essentially like traps its weather and climate there. It's one of the reasons Antarctica is so cold, and it's related to the polar vortex, which is essentially the same thing in the air, just that a big wind, a westerly wind going around Antarctica at the pole, just in a circle. Polar vortex, and it kind of traps most of the weather there. So it's why we don't always get hit with super freezing winds. Sometimes we do, obviously, but not as often. Our weather would be very different if the polar vortex did not exist. And so essentially what's happened is warmer air from down below has gotten into a wave, hit this polar vortex and sort of disrupted it. And then it's put all that heat into the upper atmosphere. This does happen, like these sudden stratospheric warming events are actually more common in the northern hemisphere because its polar vortex is weaker and it's more easily disrupted. So in the Arctic, they get these quite often. It happens all the time. But in Antarctica, the vortex is stronger, so the events are much rarer and weaker. How rare they are, though, is sort of debated. So people thought they occurred once in every 60 years was sort of the idea. Like the one true sudden stratospheric warming on record was in 2002, a very long time ago. But there's this one guy from UNSW, and he's like the guy in Australia about SSW, and he thinks that we should broaden the definition because there were several other events in 2002, 2019, 2024, and now this year, which is like not as strong, but still a very clear pulse of a sudden stratospheric warming. So if you take those weaker events into account, it's suggesting a frequency of once every 20 to 25 years. So a little bit more frequent, not quite as frequent as the Arctic, which gets it like once every year or 2 years, but a lot more frequent. And then there's sort of like, there's ongoing research to define like where should we draw the line of this? What is sudden stratospheric warming? How strong does it have to be? How often does what's the timing? All of that stuff is still sort of under research, being researched and trying to see what's happening. But we're talking about this not because it's just an interesting weather phenomenon. We're talking about it because it's going to affect us. Antarctica doesn't love... I've written here that Antarctica doesn't like to keep its weather to itself. It actually does. It does like to keep its weather to itself, but every so often it does obviously affect the planet. The way Antarctica works affects the entire planet's weather system, and every so often when things like this happen, it will affect us. It affects us all the time. In fact, it kind of already has. Like we mentioned, this started at the start of September. It's been going on throughout September. And does anyone remember how much rain the East Coast was getting all August? Okay, Max?
Yeah, sorry.
Cool.
Yeah.
Everyone's remembering all this rain. Well, that was actually, fun fact, predicted to continue into spring. It was meant to be rainy all September and into October.
Yeah, right.
And then about the 10th of September, things sort of suddenly cleared up. You might remember it because everyone was looking at their weather apps being like, what the hell? It was meant to be rainy all this week and now it's clear. And it suddenly got warmer. And that was the first of the sudden stratospheric warmings.
Yeah.
That was that first pulse. So what can we expect to see in regional weather? Well, it's across Australia and New Zealand, by the way. It's Aotearoa's in this as well. Historically, SSWs are linked to warmer, drier springs and summers in southeastern Australia. The 2019 SSW is likely to have contributed to the extremely dry conditions that fed into the Black Summer bushfires. So that is something that they are thinking about, is like maybe this could have those extreme dry conditions that we would be worried about. However, we have had a very wet winter, so that's something to keep in mind, as we didn't have that in the 2019-2020 bushfires.
Yeah, true.
A colder than normal stratosphere, though, conversely, can drive cooler, wetter weather. When we saw in 23-24, which defied... Do you guys remember this? Like, the summer of last year, like coming into the summer of last year, we were supposed to have El Nino, but then it was really kind of damp and wet, and everyone was like, what is this El Nino? This is terrible. Apparently, there was a minor SSW event that sort of just threw the atmosphere into a bit of a tizzy. Currently... BOM is currently forecasting warmer spring and wetter conditions in the southeast, because because of the ocean, essentially. So typically, if it was just the Antarctic SSW, we would say drier, warmer, but now we're saying warmer, wetter, because there's also very warm ocean temperatures happening right now. That's sort of promoting evaporation, rainfall, all of that. Like, I think it's important to mention here, when we talk about these climate systems and just weather in general, like, it is such a huge natural system that when we talk about forecasting, especially in like months to come, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. So I'm just going off what Bomb's saying. Know that this could very easily change. This is, like they said, a sudden event. It's only quick. We don't know how it's going to like affect things down the line. One thing that can happen is with a warmer stratosphere, it means less ozone destruction, which is kind of interesting. More ozone will be transported poleward from the equator, which reduces the amount of UV radiation reaching Earth's surface, which is great for those of us who like not having wrinkles and sunburn. That's really lovely. Also really good for our friends over in Aotearoa, which is where the ozone hole currently is over.
Right.
So woo, yay, maybe hopefully helping that.
Close that up.
However, it can also interact with circulation changes. So that kind of adds another layer of complexity to predicting this weather system. Yeah, everything, all these patterns are super complicated. No one's 100% sure what's going on, but that's the best idea we have. One thing, and I don't know if you saw anything about this, Gabe, when you were looking into it, but I could not find any mention of climate change, like weather, because when I looked at the dates, there was 2002, 2019, 2023, and then 2025, and that, to me, reads as getting more frequent. I have not found any science that backs that up. I did see someone who said they didn't know that was like an active area of research. Is that because this is so rare, they didn't have enough data to essentially say whether it's getting more frequent or not? But currently, there is no agreement on whether SSWs in the Southern Hemisphere whether they will become more frequent, whether they are becoming more frequent. I couldn't find anything for or against. It was just sort of like an open question. They don't know because it's such a rare event.
Gabe, any more to add on that?
No, they don't. They're not sure. It's still they're still looking into it. We just don't know. There's so much about this system that we don't know. It's it's kilometres above Antarctica. There's a very small number of people studying it, and I think they're still looking into it. So they're not sure.
The World Meteorological Organization released their State of the Global Climate Report for 2024. Want to know what beautiful little piece of information they found? 2024 was the first calendar year to be more than 1.5 degrees Celsius in global average temperatures above pre-industrial era, making it the warmest year in 175 years we have been recording the temperature of the world.
There you go.
How great is that?
Delightful.
Aren't humans fantastic?
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this.
Max,
Yes.
in the era of escapism, and I feel a little bit weird about linking climate change to what we're about to say, but you know what? Stuff it.
Yeah.
The best escapism that you could probably find at the moment is supporting real, un-algorithmed, un-AI'd
Community radio.
on community radio.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, if you want a warm inner glow to match the outer glow of the planet. Subscription.
That's right. And you can do that by going to our website at 4zzz.org.au/support. If you're under 18, $25. If you're a pet, like Ibo, $25. Concession, $40.
If you have bought a pet subscription, your fake dog, please text in.
Nah, for real, we will make you the
We
show
want to
mascot.
know.
To know.
A full is $80, passionate $140, and a super sub for $500. What do you think about that, Ibo?
What about a Tamagotchi? Like, what counts as a pet nowadays? We're not checking.
And Owen wrote in, he said that the price of a rover dog with buggered hips reflects that a boutique of boutique dogs that also come with buggered hips.
It comes pedigreed.
Pedigreed.
It is 4th Gen after all. Just going to text in, hi, I'm hoping you can make the following announcement. Zared and Leo are getting married today at the registry office at 1:30 p.m. Best wishes. Lots of love, Katrina. And if you want to get shout out, if you want shout outs like that, you can text in on 0420 626 733. It's good to be a subscriber, but at least Katrina signed it off with their name. And how do you subscribe, Gabe?
You go to 4ZZZ.org.au/support, or just look up 4ZZZ, subscribe, and whatever your search engine is. And there's all sorts of subscribing options. Subscribing is genuinely what keeps us on air. Our subscribers are incredible people, supporting community radio, supporting science radio for us, coming on your airwaves every week. 4ZZZ.org.au/support. There's subscription bands for all sorts of different categories. There's under 18, concession, full, passionate, band, solo artists, business, super sub, and households. There's all sorts of, so you can just jump onto the website and have a look through all of the different options there to subscribe online. And Max, do you know what our monthly new monthly prize is?
We do, because it's the start of October, isn't it? So I know it's a $500 package. There we go. It's from Spectacular Prize Pack from Berserk. Established in the year 2000, Berserk are Australia's largest alternative online store, bringing you an amazing range of alternative clothing, pop culture, collectibles, homewares, cosmetics, hair dye, shoes and accessories, carefully selected from unique suppliers from around the world. They stock some of the world's best-known alternative brands and add new products daily. Based in Brizzy, Berserk is your local home for an alternative subcultures catering to all things goth, Koali, punk, pin-up and more. A place for all lovers of weird and wonderful. They have something for everyone. This Halloween, Berserk are treating one lucky 4ZZZ listener to a spectacular prize pack valued at over $500, packed with creepy, kooky and delightful ghoulish goodies. Job done.
Max, I got to follow. We got another text in about the story we just covered about the stratosphere above Antarctica. Natalie texted in saying the lack of evidence towards it being a consequence of climate change is a really interesting plot twist. Seems like this is kind of obviously a result of that, but maybe that's not always what's been happening, and that we're just lacking observations. That's exactly it. The researchers throughout this just keeps talking about how little we understand, and it's very hard as well when you sort of start researching something that, what is it, once every 20 to 30 years it happens?
Well, they used to think it was once every 60 years.
Yeah, right.
So like, that's only new evidence.
How do you study something that happens once every 60 years?
Yeah,
so,
40 kilometres above Antarctica.
Exactly right. But there was a paper that came out in 2021 by a couple of researchers, including the guy who's written the conversation piece. It's really good about this yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. And so what they found is they tried to model 1990 conditions of the this atmosphere above stratosphere above Antarctica. And they were like, okay, with 1990 levels of CO2, that's the key thing that's affecting it. They think like the CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere. They predicted happening once every 22 years. This is 4-year-old research, so it may have been a bit different now that we have a new one, like a new observation of this year. But they were saying that 2020. Once every 22 years is what they were seeing. They actually think that with the additional CO2 in the atmosphere, these heating events over the Antarctic stratosphere may actually drop to one every 300 years. Like they might actually get interfered with as a process because of the extra CO2 in the atmosphere.
Okay, you tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We got Gabe and we got Maximillian.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science careers won't go far. But unlike an engine, I will keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
Now, this one doesn't count for F1, but we did have
a non-champion anthem.
We have a world champion, Aussie Daniel Sanders, aka Chucky, has been crowned Rally Raid World Champion for motorcycles after winning in Portugal on the weekend. It was his 4th straight win of the year. Think back, he won Dakar and he's won 4 races now. The title, Sanders, the title even before he won the title even before the final race in Morocco, which is coming up in a few weeks. It is the 31-year-old's first world championship, riding his KTM. Chucky finished 3 minutes ahead of his nearest rival on the grueling 2,400-kilometre race held over several days. MotoGP, Spaniard Marc Marquez came home in second.
Really nicely timed, by the way, there.
At last weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. This was enough to be officially crowned MotoGP World Champion for 2025.
Huge.
So
huge after such a huge injury.
Yeah, there's still 4 more race weekends to go for this season. So it just shows you how convincing he was and how dominant he was on his Ducati.
He came in second over the weekend behind Bagnaia, and Bagnaia in first. His bike started billowing smoke on the last few laps.
I know, I saw that.
A very dramatic end.
And did you see Aussie Jack Miller? He snapped his chain with a few laps to go when he's changing up from second to third. And bang, just snapped. Anyway.
Does that count as a Miller special?
Yeah, it's a Miller special. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
NASCAR, it was another race weekend. This time it was in Kansas on an oval circuit. Former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen, Australian adjacent, was penalised before the race, which meant get this, he had to start from the back of the grid and serve a stop-go penalty on the first lap. But, this didn't worry Shane. He finished in the top 10, coming home in 10th. And this is
in the top 10.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's his best NASCAR Cup result on an oval circuit. But I'm looking forward to this weekend's race because if you're an SVG fan, he will probably win it. It's a road circuit. And he will also be mentoring fellow teammate Ross Chastain because Ross is still in the mix to win the playoffs this year. And Shane says he will be doing everything he can to help Ross out. I'm not sure if this means that he'll let Ross win, but probably giving him pointers on how to get around a road circuit very, very quickly. And finally, happy birthday. I haven't got any happy birthday music, sorry, but it was Max Verstappen's birthday yesterday. And he competed in his debut GT3 race on the weekend. Did you hear about this, Gabe?
Yeah. I heard rumours that he came, saw, conquered and left.
Pretty well at the Nürburgring. Yeah, driving a Ferrari.
The life.
Yeah, and he had a teammate who's a sim expert, Chris Lahom.
Who's part of Team Redline.
Yeah.
So
he's a virtual racer now turned into a physical racer.
Well, he does have a bit of experience in karts and stuff.
Right, okay.
As well.
So Max drove the first 2 stints of the 4-hour race and he amassed a lead of around 1 minute to everyone else. Right? So we're thinking, how bad would you feel? Like you think you're a specialist at Nürburgring and then suddenly Max Verstappen comes along and just gives you a flogging of 1 minute.
Yeah, it gives you a lesson like his second time out. The Deutschland. Like, wow. I mean, it goes to show the power of, I guess, all the iRacing and the simulations now that someone can actually gain the hours virtually and then be competitive against people that are, as you say, are actual track specialists.
Yeah. Anyway, his teammate Chris, he brought the car home first with 25-second lead. And as a side note, we thought this would be funny to say, Max Verstappen will probably be the only current F1 driver to win in a Ferrari this year. Too harsh?
Very harsh. It was a bit surreal, though, seeing Ferrari put out a press release about Max Verstappen.
Okay, F1, it's on this weekend. It's in Singapore. It should be a good race weekend for McLaren and an even better one, I'm hoping, for Oscar Piastri after his disastrous weekend in Baku.
Yeah. MotoGP also this weekend, Indonesia.
Is it? Okay.
And F1 Academy is going on at the F1, so they'll be back in action. What else is coming up? The Bathurst is in 2 weeks. Big week. The big week for 2 weeks.
October's pretty big, isn't it? Yeah.
And Sail GP's this weekend as well, 4th to the 6th.
Okay.
So, nice big weekend coming up.
Maxie, any more to add?
Well, we're just thinking about whether Red Bull will be resurgent or not.
Yes, that's true.
Because they seem to have unlocked something, at least in the sort of Monza and Baku, like high-speed straight sort of circuits. But it remains to be seen. Like Singapore is always a bit of a crazy one.
It is, yeah. Okay, what do you got for us, Gabe?
Max, last week on the show, I covered the Ig Nobel prizes. Specifically, I covered the Ig Nobel prize for physics, which was the perfect pasta sauce.
Yeah. Did you end up making it?
Max?
Yeah.
We did.
We sure did.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And this is your report back.
Cool.
So, to recap, it's called Cacio Pepe. It's cheese and pepper is what that translates into. Traditionally is 4 ingredients, 5 ingredients.
People
Depends how you
debate
count
whether
ingredients.
you count water.
Yeah. So there's Pecorino Romano cheese. That's core.
It has to be Pecorino Romano.
Pasta, pasta water. I
Yes.
count that as an
Starchy
ingredient.
water, yeah.
Yeah, starchy pasta water, pepper, and then most people add salt. So there's 5 ingredients, I guess, in the traditional recipe if you include the salt and the pasta
After
water.
having it, I would maybe say skip the salt.
Yeah, because if you cook it in
A lot of
salty water,
cheese.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, even in that, you don't really need it.
That's where the salt
Regardless.
goes. It's in
Yeah.
the pasta water.
Yeah.
And so that's what you do. And then you just, you sort of melt the cheese in hot, slightly cool pasta water, mix it through with with the roasted pepper and the pasta. And that's what it gives you this. It is water plus the pasta starch plus cheese. That's the
Emulsifies.
sauce
Yes.
with pepper.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's meant to be like a liquid cheese that you coat the pasta in. The problem that happens is a lot of the time, this is what the Ig Nobel
curdles,
Prize
yeah.
winners said, is basically it gets
It
all
splits a
clumped.
bit.
Yeah, it splits a bit, it gets all clumpy. And so this is like a really traditional recipe that has a lot of backstory to it, a lot of history and a lot of love for it. And so this physicist, who is Italian, I confirmed,
Yeah, he was out of Austria. Last week we thought he was an Austrian. He's not Austrian, he just
From
lives
Rome.
there.
Yeah.
and so, but he's a physicist who just has a hobby, I guess, and perfected peer-reviewed paper published on the perfect cacio pepe recipe, which adds a 6th ingredient. It adds starch, which in this case most cases is corn flour,
Yes,
right? That's what
yeah.
most
That's
people
what we
would
had.
use. So it's 2 to 3% corn flour for every gram of cheese that you have. So you add, 2.5 grams of corn flour per 100 grams of cheese, which is exactly the amount I used. And what we did, Max.
The methodology is a bit different too.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
say.
And, that's right. And
That's
then
the
it
key in
changes.
everything.
This is why I was skeptical about this, Max, because they then changed the recipe and say you don't grate the cheese and mix it in with the water to melt it and make it into a sauce. Take chunks of this cheese, which is expensive cheese. You chop it up into chunks,
Yeah.
and you chuck it in a blender. With a corn flour slurry.
And we have a pretty cheap blender, so I do want to throw that out there. You don't need a great blender.
Corn flour slurry and bits of pasta water, and you blend it together, which seems sacrilegious, Max, to do with this
Seems a
cheese.
bit wild.
But that's what you do. And so we did both. And what I tried to control
Very
as many
scientific.
variables as you can by doing like the pasta was cooked the same. It was the same batch of pasta. It was the same batch of pepper.
Same pasta water.
Same pasta water. I tried to control for as much as I could. Tried to to cool the pasta water to about the same amount before it goes
It
into
was
the
exactly
cheese.
the same amount
Yeah.
for both.
And then you
It was
put,
in
a
the exact
you
half.
put a blindfold on Peter and then gave them
Put a
the
blind-
dish.
Well, it was not at all
No,
blind.
that did not work.
Yeah, like the good scientists we were, we went in full of bias,
Yeah.
completely against the new version because how dare you change this recipe? We knew exactly what was happening. We were controlling every variable. We had no blind going on.
There's no blind at all. Also, then I had to step in at one point and take over the old world recipe because it requires. I cannot express how sore my arm was from whisking. Like in all the videos, they just skip and they're like, "You whisk this for a little bit, and then it becomes a beautiful smooth sauce."
emulsifies,
No, it doesn't. Oh my god, I was whisking for like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and maybe I didn't do it right, but at the same time, ow. Blenders are easier.
So, Max, there was this moment where I took a peek into the blended version because that's kind of you can get an idea of what's going on. I peeked into the blender and I went, oh, that looks pretty good.
It's not separating.
As we're whisking,
As
the
I'm whisking in the
traditional
background.
version, that's still clumping up, and we separate the pasta, mix it through, give it a little bit more time on the stove just to thicken up and cook through, and then plate it up. And Max, like you can make cacio pepe without the corn. This new method, you can do it well. Like people have been doing it for ages. If you are as novice at it as I am, as we were,
Yeah.
It works so well.
It's also just easier. It's easier and faster.
It was like a teaspoon of corn flour.
Yeah,
mixed
we
into
measured it
some
using
water.
my fancy scale.
Yeah.
We
Measured
used
it-
my perfume scale.
Measured it to 2.5 grams exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
3 decimal places, bro.
And then put that mix that into some warm water. Put that into a blender with some pasta water and chunks of cheese.
Yeah.
Blended it up, and it was perfect straight away.
Fantastic.
Like it was just this smooth cheese sauce. What I would like to test in future is blending it without the corn flour, just to make sure it's not the blender that's actually
Yeah, because the
Helping
methodology
out.
was
Yeah,
different.
true.
like maybe it's just blending the cheese that actually causes that to go smooth. Not just the flour. But the scientific explanation is in pasta water, there's not enough starch to do the emulsification, and the other processes are binding together stuff that doesn't want to be together, like oils and water.
And I'd like to add in here, I looked up a lot of videos of Italian grandmas making this afterwards, and their pasta water looks very different to our pasta water, which I'm assuming is because pasta in Italy probably is better quality and has more starch. So their pasta water is probably more starchy. So adding starch makes sense to me for people who don't have that high quality pasta. Why not?
Stabilizes the water, emulsifies the mixture. It stabilizes the sauce, emulsifies the sauce, so you can make cacio pepe without this Ig Nobel Prize winning extra addition of corn flour slurry and blending that into the cheese instead of grating all of the cheese. But as a foolproof method, it's pretty damn good. Max gets my vote.
From two fools, it worked a lot better than the other one. The other one was quite lumpy.
We'll post some photos of the two because you can tell which one's which.
What's your next one?
Well, we have the Ig Nobel Prize for Aviation. And to start us off, Max, I thought I'd just roll the opening of the 2025 Ig Nobel Awards.
Welcome!
The customary welcome. He got it wrong this year, though. He's meant to say welcome, welcome twice and then blow the whistle thing. And he only said it once. He got called out for it on stage too. The Ig Nobel Prizes happened about 2 weeks ago now. They happen every year. They are, as the name suggests, they're a bit of a gimmick play on the Nobel Prizes.
I feel like if this show had an awards show, we would have... if they weren't already invented, we would have invented them.
That's right. And so we talked about the Cacio Pepe, the perfect pasta sauce that won the physics prize. And this one we're talking about is the aviation
why it was
prize.
Physics?
No.
Isn't
There's
all
also
science physics?
Okay.
Maybe because it's biophysicists. I'm sure the paper gets into some of the physics behind it. And also the theme for this year's Ig Nobel Awards was digestion, which they quickly followed up with, same as what we say with our themes, is the stories may or may not be related to digestion.
Just a vibe. Just a vibe. It's something we're thinking about at the time. It doesn't necessarily mean it's what we're going to be reporting on.
And the prize for this year was model stomach with a happy face on one side and a sad face on the other.
Well, that's great.
Had to rescind one of the previous prizes, though. They used to give every Ig Nobel Prize winner a $10 trillion bill, $10 trillion in cash.
Yes.
Zimbabwean cash from a period of hyperinflation.
But then they changed that.
Which has since been removed. I don't think they can get their hands on enough of the bills anymore. So they now get, instead, a moist towelette.
Lovely.
for reference, the $10 trillion bill, which is now, it's not usable for anything. It was worth about 60 Aussie cents. Right. So, really splashing out. What they also do in the Ig Nobel Awards is give speeches, like short speeches, often with the researchers or someone who's there on their behalf. Yes. And if they go too long, they get like 60 seconds max. If they go too long, there's a tradition, they bring out Miss Sweetie Poo.
And she's very annoying.
Who is one person at the moment.
Yes.
And she's 8 at the moment.
Yeah, she's young.
But was unavailable for the 2025 awards.
Had an assignment to do.
Short notice. Yeah.
She's been doing this for years, hasn't she?
Instead, they brought up they brought up their major domo, who is basically like the chief minion, on stage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Put him in a frilly apron.
Perfect.
And this is what happens when the speakers go overtime.
Please stop. I'm bored. Please stop. I'm bored. Please stop. I'm bored. Please stop. I'm bored. Please
Thank
stop.
You. Thank you, Miss Sweetie Poo.
Please stop. I'm bored.
Thank you, Miss.
Please
thank you,
stop.
Miss.
I'm
thank
bored.
You.
Please stop.
Thank you, Miss Sweetie Poo.
So that's what happens. And this happened during the end of the Aviation Prize, which it was one of the last awards announced, and went to an international group of researchers who have studied bat FUIs, flying under the influence.
This used to happen to me.
These scientists just won an Ig Nobel Prize for feeding bats alcohol and studying what it does to their flight and echolocation.
So it was an experiment. It wasn't just looking at them.
Bang on. These are Egyptian fruit bats they're looking at. They're across, Egypt, of course, but actually they're found across a lot of Africa. They're right in southern parts of Africa, western parts, eastern parts of Africa. There's pockets of populations of Egyptian fruit bats.
They look
all
like
over the
owls?
place. They are very cute bats. They look like our flying foxes, but even more sort of mousy with the rounded ears and the big eyes. Very, very cute fruit bats. And as you may have guessed, eat fruit. But about 20 years ago, some researchers discovered that they avoid fruit that has ripened to the point where the ethanol content is over 1%.
Oh, owls don't.
It's if it's over that level of alcohol content in the fruit, they tend to leave it alone. If there isn't much food around, they seem to go for it more. But if there's low alcohol fruit available, they'll go for that, and they won't touch the stuff that has that higher ethanol content. So the question then became, well, I wonder if the alcohol basically makes them drunk to the point where it might get in the way of them flying and echolocating, and means that it's not in their survival interest to eat it because it puts them at risk.
Which, to be fair, we have talked on this show before about how bats actually aren't that great at flying anyway. They bump into a lot of stuff.
To test this, they had to get some bats drunk.
Hell yeah.
5 bats in particular, in the first bit of this
5
experiment.
bats walk into
Did
a
they
bar.
buy them dinner first?
They did buy them dinner first. They were housed in an aviary and given food at Libertarium, they said. They were given a banquet of food to eat from, and then they got put in a 6.7 metre long flight corridor at night. All male bats, we'll get into that in a second, but the bats were then fed food containing either 0% ethanol or 1% ethanol. And at this point, I was starting to wonder, how drunk did they get the bats? How were they actually inebriated? Because they were using these words like intoxicated and inebriated in the study. And so what they did to try and get them drunk enough, they assumed that the same blood alcohol rate that would make a human drunk would get a bat drunk.
Yes.
Oh, that's a big capital A assumption right
so
there.
they estimated how much blood was in the bat based on its weight, which is one of the reasons they had to test the male bats only, not the female ones they had, because the female ones have a very variable weight.
Yeah.
So then with the males, they're more confident.
And then they have to blow
with the blood content.
0.05 or better.
Max, I tell you, they targeted a level of 0.15. 3 times over what you'd blow to get in trouble in Queensland. So
they might be hospitalised.
A 70 kilogram human would need to drink 9 litres of a 1% ethanol solution to match these
1%,
bats, or obviously less of a higher
I
alcohol
was going to
solution.
be like, that's a lot.
But yeah, so these bats they got them 3 times the level that would get you taken off the road in Queensland. And then they made them fly down that corridor. About 5 to 10 minutes later, they flew down the 6.7 metre corridor. When the bats didn't have any alcohol, it took a little over 2 seconds for them to fly down this corridor. Yeah. When they were given the alcohol, it took them about 3.5 seconds to fly down this corridor. It's a lot longer. And then they did a second experiment where they recorded the echolocation calls of the bats after eating the food with or without ethanol. The ones that had ethanol had more unpaired clicks, had paired clicks that were closer together, and had more variability in how much time there was between their paired clicks. So when they call, they make this click with either side of their tongue. Yes. So they found when they had ethanol, they didn't pair them as often.
How to do it.
They had bigger gaps between them, and they sort of they did them really quickly in succession in a way that
Did they slow them?
They effectively they were slurring their clicks and stumbling over their clicks. And so I'll just play a very brief summary from the speech of the lead researcher.
Better be brief, otherwise we're going to get Miss Sweetie Poo.
He did get Miss Sweetie Poo, but this is before that.
Research was about making some parties for bats, and we had to provide them some ethanol. The problem is that the bats didn't like it.
That's it. They provided the bats some ethanol. They didn't like it.
They force-fed bats alcohol. They essentially spiked bats.
Pretty well.
Pretty much, yeah. The reason they're looking into this, though, is because it could actually have a reason behind. It could explain why they're avoiding this fruit in the wild. They're flying under the influence of ethanol. If it does affect how well they fly, that could not just slow them down, but it could also make them easier prey for their predators, like an owl, or cause collisions, which could
already a thing.
Often fatal if you have a bad collision as a bat. And also the echolocation was different, which means they may not. One of two things: either probably means they've got the information, they can't communicate it properly, like the echolocation isn't working, or it means they're not receiving the information for their echolocation. So one of the two is going on. Something's going wrong in the echolocation and changing that. And they think, effectively, that this
Don't get bats drunk.
inebriation is one of the reasons why these bats avoid high ethanol foods, even if it's available. And they also had a bit of a theorization about why bats wouldn't have evolved a way of doing it, because it's a lot of fruit that's there. We've been talking about this, Max, right? With the scrumping in great apes,
Lots of fruit goes
eating
to waste.
ethanol fruits, and chimps and bonobos and gorillas. So this is a resource that's there. Why wouldn't they pick it up? And they think it might be related to how light you have to be to fly well as a bat. These bats are about 140 grams. They're really light. They're a
So
fruit
they're
bat
smaller
size.
than our... Oh, no, our fruit bats are about the same size then.
Our flying foxes are quite large, but other fruit bats that you see around are pretty standard size. They're 140 grams, and so that extreme weight management to be able to fly as successfully as a bat needs to, as fast and as agile, it means that if you add the machinery to your body to be able to process ethanol, it might actually add enough weight that it affects flight.
Makes it not great.
So
But then,
the
why-
fitness benefit of being able to process ethanol means you're flying so much more impeded that it's not actually worth it. It's better just to avoid that food altogether. Because remember, like ethanol and other toxins that are in this fruit are microorganisms, fungus, bacteria, all sorts of stuff, turning the sugars, the energy that's in that fruit, into something to try and stop something like a vertebrate eating it, because it's in that microorganism survival benefit to have that fruit to itself. So it makes it mildly toxic or whatever it is. So it's not like it's...
So, okay,
It's not
here's
a
the
good
thing that I
thing to be
keep coming
consumed
back
for a lot
to,
of
though.
animals. Yeah.
Where I grew up on the Gold Coast, bats are drunk all the time. You can see it. You can smell it. Like, you can smell when the bats have been having a go at the alcoholic fruit. It's because their poop gets a different color and it smells like alcohol. And they would do it all the time around us. So now I'm wondering, like, do our fruit bats like... what I'm saying is we should repeat the study on Australian fruit bats.
They seem to be implying that there's no bats that have any sort of evolutionary adaptation to be able to process ethanol.
Yeah.
So
I hope our bats aren't doing it and hate it.
yeah, and so they seem to not like it and avoid
sad.
it.
I thought they were partying.
And so you basically get this evolutionary trade-off where you can't exploit the overripe fruit because of its higher alcohol content, and it means you're at risk of being intoxicated by Ig Nobel Prize-winning scientists. This was, I should say, published 16 years ago. Quite old research and a very small sample size, of course. So
why haven't they come to Australia yet?
well, we could
Make
do
our
it
bats
here.
drunk.
Do it here. And yeah, there's also other reasons why they may be avoiding ethanol high fruits, like the other toxins that might be in there from microorganisms. So there could be more things at
maybe
play.
our fruits are
but they're
healthier.
they concluded it seems that there is an evolutionary benefit for them to avoid the high ethanol fruits in these Egyptian fruit bats because it gets them drunk, and that could make them
And other
impede their
species
survival.
have realised that impeding yourself through poison is maybe not the best thing. We're the slow ones, really.
That's what I got, Max.
For example,
I did get
social
that.
drinking is generally associated with positive effects, while drinking alone can be linked to negative effects. However, the actual...
Sorry, did you just say drinking together is generally with good effect?
Yeah, it is, until you have too much, I guess. But
In moderation.
That's such a big caveat.
That's a huge thing to throw out on the science show. Can you say whether that's a Maxiism or whether that was in the study?
yeah, it's right. I don't know. However, the actual neurobiological... And we got a text in from Steve.
Yeah, Stephen texted in. Love the show. I did get hit while riding my bike by a flying fox who I thought was obviously partying on the figs in Milton. Seems to be a thing.
Honestly, I feel like this was common knowledge on the Gold Coast. Like, I remember as a kid, it wasn't even like do you think the fruit brats are drunk? People were just like, they're drunk today.
0420 626
Or Space News, do whatever.
Okay.
You got to be quick with those texts. Max will cut you off.
I'm saying move over Perseverance. So we know Perseverance is on Mars. It's also known as the Rover 2020. And it was sent there and it costs over $2 billion to get it there. And now a new team called Team Tumbleweed has developed has developed a spherical rover which could enable large-scale and low-cost exploration of the Mars surface, according to results presented at the joint meeting of the Europlanet Science Congress and the Division for Planetary Sciences 2025. Tumbleweed rovers are lightweight, spherical robots with a 5-metre diameter designed to harness...
Whoa, sorry.
I know, it's
5
big,
meters.
I know, yeah.
Jesus.
That's so they can catch the breeze. Designed to harness the power of Martian winds for mobility. They reckon swarms of rovers could spread across the red planet autonomously.
Swarms.
Gathering environmental data and providing an unprecedented simultaneous view of atmospheric and surface processes from different locations on Mars. Trials were held in both a wind tunnel and a quarry. The onboard instruments successfully recorded data during the tumbling, and the rover's behaviour matched fluid dynamics modelling, validating simulations. How cool is that?
Pretty cool. I mean, it does feel like it's just that they'll just break really quickly and end up in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, if they're meant to catch the wind, what happens when there's a strong breeze against a cliff?
It just gets lodged in there. Anyway.
Or falls off a cliff, was more my point. But I don't know.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's just like a bunch of big metal rings, effectively,
Pretty
isn't it?
well, yeah.
That are around it, and it just bounces around on those with a bit of a sail
is it
in the middle.
recording?
And, yeah,
it's got
it's
instruments on
got
board.
capacity. For,
But it's not like picking up samples and dropping them behind it and hoping someone will
It's
come
not
and pick
picking
it
it
up
up and
later.
putting it in titanium tubes. No, not doing any of that.
Right.
That's just a Perseverance special. That one.
Man, what a weird time to be a Martian, though. You know,
Yeah.
like imagine just being a Martian and then having quote hordes of giant round circles coming around and just floating around your planet. You'd be like, what the hell is this?
It'd be good if they had cool LEDs on them too. You know, just.
We're sending a message to the aliens. We have sick lights. We create a vibe.
We have come to party.
Yeah. NASA
What else
has
you got?
NASA has announced Artemis 2 will fly sometime next year, hopefully February, and it will be a crewed mission, and they're going to fly around the moon. And the last time we ever got out that far was Apollo 17 back in 1972. So it's been
God, we've really had a rough patch, haven't we?
quite a while. And finally, like I talked about at the beginning of the show when Gabe was going to talk about the Ig Nobles and aviation, Concorde.
Yeah.
Concorde 001 was the first prototype of the Concorde supersonic transport aircraft, achieving its maiden flight back in March 2, 1969, and made its first supersonic flight today, but back in 1969, October 1. It was developed jointly by SUD Aviation and the British Aircraft Corporation, and it broke the sound barrier and was instrumental in improving the Concorde's technological, I wish I could say that word, capabilities. Today Concorde
We hope.
001 is preserved in excellent condition, they reckon, at the French Air Museum at Le Bourget Airport in Paris. Its successful flights helped pave the way for the commercial era of Concorde, which began service in 1976. So hopefully we'll get back to those glory days with the new planes being tested. Is it the X-39 and the Boom?
And maybe one day they too will end up in Le Bourget.
Okay. You're going to sign us out, Gabe, I think.
Yeah, that's all we've got time for on the show today. I just had to let Peter get in one more jab at you for Le Bourget Airport.
Le Bourget. I mean, hey, I was saying Le South last week, so I can't really talk.
This Shark Bite Proof show was brought to you thanks to sudden stratospheric warming and all of the subscribers to 4ZZZ. Thank you to everyone who does subscribe. You can become a subscriber at 4ZZZ.org.au. You can look at all the different subscription options there and this monthly sub prize. You go into the running to win if you do subscribe during October. And on that website is where you'll also can also find all of our full recordings of the show with all the music, as well as a bunch of our previous shows. The condensed versions of this show are available on your podcasting platform of choice. Just search up No Idea 4ZZZ. That's No with a K, No Idea 4ZZZ. 5 stars still?
Still 5 stars. Still the highest rated podcast on Spotify
and Apple.
And Apple, as far as I can tell, still the highest. Keep us there. Keep us there. You only have to listen to, I think, 1 or 2 episodes before you're able to rate us and give us that 5-star rating. And I think once you've listened to 1, you will listen to more. It is good. I'm not ashamed to say that I listen back to these episodes and I laugh at my own jokes. I think I'm funny.
We'll be back in your ears next week. Yeah. Between now and then, thank Antarctica for the warmer weather. Keep your eyes out for Artemis and don't get fruit bats drunk.
And we'll speak to you next week.
Later.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.